What if I told you that 66% of homeowners said that weeds are the biggest challenge that they face when it comes to lawn care, and that there was one simple application that you could make that would go a long way to helping you eliminate that problem? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. You are listening to the Lawns and Life podcast, the show built for DIYers who like to learn, grow, and have a little bit of fun along the way. I'm your host, Devin, the DIY lawn coach, and thank you so much for coming back for another week. Well, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm actually dealing with a sinus infection today, so my nose sounds a little nasally and throat, and I'm going to try not to cough too much into the microphone today, but we're going to get through it. I think I'm on the tail end of this. I am starting to feel a little bit better, but as I talk, my throat gets a little hoarse, so I'll try to keep that in mind and keep you guys, keep this podcast to a minimum. So here we go. Did you know that only 30% of homeowners reported using a pre-emergent? And this is according to a 2025 survey. Only 30%. That kind of blows my mind a little bit because I know the effectiveness and how well a pre-emergent works. I know how inexpensive it is. I would like that number to be about 90%, but it's only 30, which is extremely low. You know, whether you're a professional or a DIYer, I don't know anybody who doesn't recommend putting down a pre-emergent. I'm a big believer in an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and this is exactly what a pre-emergent does. So in today's podcast, we're just going to talk about what a pre-emergent is, what it's not, what it controls, how much it costs, is it safe, all of those things. We're going to cover just about everything that you need to know when it comes to a pre-emergent. So let's just jump right in and get going. So what is a pre-emergent? Well, a pre-emergent is a product that we apply to our lawns that stops weeds from germinating, okay? There are really two different categories of herbicides or weed controls. There are pre-emergents, and then there are post-emergents. Pre just means before, post meaning after. And so pre-emergents stop the emergence of weeds. All right, it basically creates a vapor barrier and just prevents those weeds from emerging and coming, and you're able to see them in your lawn. It's really, really that simple. All right, so it's also important to understand that a pre-emergent does not prevent all weeds, and it does not prevent all grasses. All right, if you check the label out of your pre-emergent, it'll tell you what weeds it controls. Now, I'm talking about like prodiamine, for example. There are also dithiopyr or dimension that does have some post-emergent capabilities, or tenacity. Sometimes that's used as a pre-emergent, but I'm talking about the traditional prodiamine. What weeds does it prevent? Well, it controls the big ones: crabgrass, henbit, which is really, really a nuisance weed, knotweed, chickweed, something that I deal with a lot in the fall time. Spurge, I deal a lot with that in the summertime. About June, July, spurge starts kind of taking over. Annual bluegrass is another one that it controls. Now, why is annual bluegrass considered a weed? Well, annual bluegrass, or Poa annua, we usually apply that in the fall to prevent the emergence of annual bluegrass. Foxtail, goosegrass. Again, there are 30, 35 weeds that it controls, but it's important to understand that it is not going to stop all the weeds. So if you apply a pre-emergent and you're like, hey, I thought you said it would prevent the weed. Well, it will prevent some of the big ones. And the main one that we go after as homeowners is crabgrass. That one is really prolific. It spreads really rapidly, has a high seed production, and can really make your lawn look unsightly. All right. So what does a pre-emergent not do? Well, a pre-emergent does not kill weeds. So if you see weeds in your lawn, you are too late. You do not apply a pre-emergent once you see weeds. You apply pre-emergent before you see the weeds, all right? Now, sure, Dimension does have some capabilities of taking care of some crabgrass and some of the early tiller stages. Again, we talked about tenacity, but again, I am talking about specifically prodiamine in a traditional sense of a pre-emergent. So what does it not do? It does not kill weeds. All right, so that begs the question, which one is better, liquids or granulars? Well, liquids are simply come as a wet dispersible granule that it's going to be a powder that you're going to add water to, and you're going to put it in a backpack sprayer, and you're going to broadcast spray that over your lawn. Or you have a granular application, and sometimes these will be included with maybe some fertilizers, things like that. But for the most part, a granular you put in a spreader, and you broadcast spray that over your lawn. So which one's better? Well, that depends on you. We're going to talk about cost here in just a second. So if cost is something that's important to you, we'll talk about how much the difference is between the two, but I want to stay tuned to that. But it really comes down to how do you like to apply and what works better for you. Both of them work equally, just as good, but which one are you going to get a better application with? Which one are you going to get watered in correctly? We'll talk about all that, but really, which one's better? Either one. It doesn't matter. What matters the most is that you get it down. All right. All right. So let's talk about timing for a second, because this is probably maybe the single most important aspect when it comes to a pre-emergent. And it really comes down to timing. In the springtime, we want to put down a pre-emergent before soil temperatures reach 55 degrees. Why 55 degrees? Well, that's because weed seeds like to start germinating around 55 degrees. In order to prevent those weeds from germinating, we need a pre-emergent in our soil before we reach that point. All right. So once soil temperatures cross about that 50-degree mark, we're then going to apply our pre-emergent, make sure it gets in the soil before we cross over that 55 degrees. Now in the fall, it's kind of the opposite. It's soil temperatures that are dropping towards 70 degrees. So in the summertime, our soil temperatures can be 78, 80 degrees. But as the soil temperatures are falling, those winter annuals that we get will germinate about 70. So we want soil temperatures around 70, 75 degrees before we put our pre-emergent down. But timing is absolutely crucial. If you get your pre-emergent down after the weeds have germinated, well, guess what? Then it's not a pre-emergent anymore. You're going to be needing a post-emergent. So the best tool that I have found, there's really two. You can use the Yard Mastery app. He has a really cool feature on there that'll tell you what your soil temperatures are, or you can do like I do, go to greencastonline.com, put in your zip code, and then just keep an eye on your soil temperatures. It's really that simple. About mid-February, every week or so, I start kind of keeping an eye on the temperature. Again, this is soil temperatures. This is not air temperatures. Here in North Carolina, temperatures will go up and down. We'll kind of do the roller coaster thing, but the soil temperatures for the most part will stay the same. And I think even on that Greencast tool, it'll tell you a 3 or 5 year average. So you can kind of get an idea of about when you're going to cross over that 55-degree mark. For me, it's about the first or second week of March. So typically, I'll start applying a pre-emergent maybe the second or last week in February, and then I'm covered. And I actually do 2 applications. I split my applications into 2. So there is a yearly maximum that you can apply of these pre-emergents, and all that can be found on the label. And I basically split that in half. When it comes to timing, early is always better. It's better to get it in the soil before. So what I do, simply split the application in half. I get it down well before we get to that 50-degree mark, and that'll carry me over the 50 to 55 degrees. And then about mid-April or so, I'll apply another round of pre-emergent, and that'll carry me all the way through summer. And that's really all I have to do, and I don't deal with weeds really for the whole year. So that kind of leads me into the next question. And that is, well, how long does it last? Well, that depends, because if you check the label out, it'll tell you based on a rate, the amount of the length of control that you should get. And it'll give you a range. It can be anywhere from a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. But if you follow the label rate, it can be up to 4 to 6 months. And that is if Mother Nature were to play nice, and she does not play nice. And what I mean by that is that pre-emergent barrier deteriorates over time. There are certain factors like rainfall, sunlight, and heat that break down that barrier and cause it to not last quite as long. So even though you put down a pre-emergent, and let's say you put down enough control to last you 4 months, areas around your sidewalks, driveways, the road, anything maybe out in the lawn, maybe you have a light post or a mailbox or something, those are going to heat up faster, thus breaking down that pre-emergent barrier. If you have a particular area in your lawn that maybe the water runs off your driveway into your lawn, that's not going to last as long. So out in maybe the middle of your lawn, sure, you might get that 3 to 4 months control, but along the edges of your road, you're probably not going to get as long of control. So how long does it last? A good application, 3 or 4 months. And that's, again, why I go back to why I do a split application. All right, so how much does it cost? All right, we talked about granular versus liquid. So I looked this up. A Lesco bag of 50-pound bag of pre-emergent, I think at Lowe's.com was around $40. And that's the 007, the Lesco Professional. And it's $40, covers 20,000 square feet. So if you do the math, that's about $2 per 1,000 square feet. Really, really inexpensive. So if you have a 5,000 square foot lawn, it costs you $10. I would split that application maybe in half, apply half the bag now, half the bag 3 or 4 weeks later. Again, that split application, but still, nonetheless, it's only costing you $10 per 1,000 square feet, or $10 to cover your whole lawn, to prevent weeds and not have to deal with crabgrass. Like, sign me up, right? All right, so another thing, so we talked about, that is a granular application. A liquid application, and I looked this up on Amazon, there's a 65 WDG, which WDG stands for wet dispersible granule. And online, that 5-pound jug is around $79.83. Now, that comes out to be 41 cents per 1,000. So if you had a 5,000 square foot lawn, you're well under the $5. So less than $5. I mean, $2.50 to treat a 5,000 square foot lawn. $5 for a 10,000 square foot lawn. Incredibly cheap. You'll make up that money in weed control products throughout the entire year just by spending $2.50 on your pre-emergent control. All right, now, so there's something really important to understand about buying these jugs, this 5-pound jug. They don't last forever. So you have to kind of weigh in what fits, your situation best. I have a very large lawn, 20,000 square foot. So that jug's probably going to last me 3 or 4 years. According to the manufacturer, if stored properly, that jug is only going to last 3 years. I've gone well beyond that, 4 to 5 years. I think I've had my jug. I'm going to probably end up finishing it this year. It'll be the last year, and I bought that several years ago. So just keep that in mind. If you buy a granular, once you open up that bag, you subject it to moisture and things like that. So you want to store it in a cool, dry area, and it should last, 2 or 3 years. Not final thoughts, sorry. All right. So is it safe? Is pre-emergent or are pre-emergents considered safe? Yes, they are very safe. They have a very low toxicity to humans. Now, they can be very harmful to waterways. So if you live near a pond or a creek or something, you want to make sure that you get that product watered in and in the soil so that it doesn't have a potential to run off. So typically in the wintertime, we don't deal with thunderstorms, heavy amounts of rain. So it's not really something we have to worry about. But low toxicity humans, once you apply your pre-emergent and you get it watered in, we'll talk about that here in just a second. Let it dry just before you let your kids or pets go out, especially because typically these pre-emergents are yellow and they'll stain the legs of your pet, shoes, that kind of thing. So just wait for it to dry. Of course, it can be harmful if it's ingested or inhaled. So make sure that you are just wearing your proper PPE, gloves. If a windy day, you don't want to be breathing that stuff in. And of course, always make sure you're reading the label. All right, so final thoughts. If you're not convinced that putting down a pre-emergent is probably the best decision you're going to make all year, I don't know what else you're waiting on. But the last thing I want you to know about a pre-emergent, and I mentioned this a couple times, is you have to water it in. All right, just because you spray it on your lawn, it has to get moved into the soil. Remember, we talked about a pre-emergent creates a vapor barrier, and it has to get down to where the roots are. I said that it prevents the germination. It actually doesn't prevent the germination. It actually stops the cell division within the plant. The weeds will actually germinate, but once they come in contact with that vapor barrier, they do die. So in order to do that, we have to get it watered in. Typically, a ½ inch, a ¼ inch of irrigation will be just fine. Light rainfall. If you apply it and maybe you get a little bit heavy rain, that is okay. It's perfectly fine. If you apply it and it snows afterwards, is something going to happen to your pre-emergent? No, actually, that's really, really good, because when that snow melts, that will do your watering in. So it's better to get it down early. You have to water it in, follow the label, and applying a pre-emergent is simply one of the best and most important applications that you can make all year, bar none. So prepare now. Go get your pre-emergent. Run to the store, jump online. I'll leave links down below where you can go check out a pre-emergent, and you want to make sure you have it on hand. We talked about you need to get this in your soil before we cross that 50-degree mark, 55-degree mark. So if you wait and then you go to the store and that store's out and you can't get it, or it's out online or whatever, it's better to just go ahead and have it now, put it in your basement, put it in your garage, have a plan together, so that as you're watching that weather, you're on that Greencast online tool and you're watching it and you're like, all right, it's go time. You are ready to go. So keep an eye on those soil temperatures. I'll link below to some pre-emergents that I recommend, but get your plan together and make sure you get down your pre-emergent this year. And let's get this lawn started off on the right foot. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast this week. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Remember, pre-emergent, one of the most important applications we're going to make all year long. My name is Devin. I am the DIY lawn coach, and I cannot wait to see you guys next week. Peace.